Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff One Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another Monday Mini, where I start having a mini panic attack. So join me, because it is election year, and apparently we all feel this pain. And we just talked about the fact that we are getting nonstop texts. I think I've got counted like 20 in one day, in which I'm like, y'all are coming on too strong, and now I just hate you. But that's a whole different conversation. I know a lot of people are volunteering and doing it, but damn, I think that money needs to go somewhere else. Anyway, yes, the election year has become a constant whirlwind of drama and controversy, including the recent change in a Democratic nomination. And before we get into it, let's do a quick timestamp. This was written August 1st, 2024. It is being recorded August 2nd, 2024. Things are changing quickly.
Yes.
But also some things haven't changed. That's what we're going to talk about. Because if you've been listening to any of our classics, or if you listened previously, when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, there's a lot out there, and some of the tactics have not changed. Before we start, yes, trigger warning, election stuff, 1, 2, racism, sexism, all the things, all the grossness that comes with election year / lies being told by everyone. Okay, so let's jump into it. The chaos that is the 2024 election has been a roller coaster already. I think it's been for the last 20 years, but I guess forever. It just has been, point blank.
Yeah.
With Biden's recent announcement of dropping out of the presidential election for this upcoming term, so many people have thoughts and comments, and that they have been, flooding the internets and media, including a lot of misinformation and disinformation that has been going nonstop, especially since Vice President Kamala Harris has started her campaign and getting the nominee spot for the DNC. So, we have talked at length, including before the 2020 election. And yes, go check out those episodes. It's back up as classics. And then our own episodes that we talked about Georgia as being a swing state, all the things. The amount of abuse and harassment many women get online, especially those in the public eye, like political figures. And we've talked about journalists as well. So again, reminders. We couldn't, and honestly, I couldn't find more recent statistics of gender-based online harassment. But still, as of 2020, at least 58% of girls surveyed had endured some type of online harassment. And VP Harris has been subject to a lot of this harassment. Here's a quote from CarnegieEndowment.org. A recent analysis shows that immediately following Kamala Harris's nomination as the 2020 U.S. Vice President candidate, false claims about Harris were being shared at least 3,000 times per hour on Twitter in what appeared to be a coordinated effort. So this was before 2020. 4 years later, I haven't seen much since then. I'm sure there's data coming through as we speak. Again, it's not been that long since there's been talks of her being the new nominee. And honestly, there's going to be so much more today, even more so today, and with this election cycle, especially with the fact that the current owner of that social media platform is circulating a lot of disinformation as well. And if you remember the different definitions, misinformation is false information that is spread regardless of whether there is intent to mislead, and then disinformation is deliberately misleading or biased information, manipulated narrative or facts or propaganda, and that is from dictionary.com. So with that, yes, he is spreading disinformation. And now with the usage of AI, which again, he reposted an AI post, essentially AI generated post that had all this disinformation. Things are going to be more problematic And we have to be careful of what we see. For some context here, here's what AP News released about the content. Quote, a video that uses an artificial intelligence voice cloning tool to mimic the voice of Vice President Kamala Harris saying things she did not say is raising concerns about the power of AI to mislead with Election Day about 3 months away. The video gained attention after tech billionaire Elon Musk shared it on his social media platform X on Friday without explicitly noting it was originally released as a parody. By late Sunday, Musk had clarified the video was intended as satire, pinning the original creator's post to his profile and using a pun to make the point that parody is not a crime. The video uses many of the same visuals as a real ad that Harris, the likely Democratic presidential nominee, released launching her campaign. But the fake ad swaps out Harris's voiceover audio with an AI-generated voice that convincingly impersonates Harris. It goes, I, Kamala Harris, am your Democratic candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate, the AI voice says in the video. It claims Harris is a diversity hire because she is a woman and a person of color. And it says that she doesn't know the first thing about running the country. And the video retains Harris for president branding. It also adds in some authentic past clips of Harris. Really, really, really concerning. And though I think most people recognize this wasn't authentic, it does bring concerns about what to expect as the election day gets closer. We already know people are pissed, especially when it comes to the Trump campaign, that Harris is now stepping up because they were ready with all the merch, talking about Sleepy Joe and all of that and whatnot. But now that's kind of gone out the window. They're talking about money and the fact that she has raised so much money. So there's a lot of things, including people saying that they're going to get sued, that she can't be on the ballot. So much misinformation once again. Even our own secretary person here responsible, Raffensperger, has verified that, yes, she can be the new nominee. The DNC has not nominated anyone officially. So with all of that, it's really, really worrisome. With that, let's talk about some of the misinformation and disinformation that is currently being used, that have been used. So I'm going to tell you the statement, and then we're going to debunk it, or we're going to clarify it. So the statement is, again, this is actually something that I believed when she was originally nominated as VP, and I was really concerned, but that VP Harris put thousands of Black community in jail and prison during her time as district attorney and attorney general in California for marijuana use. It turns out now it's not completely wrong, but it's not completely right. Under her term as AG, she had a pretty high number of arrests, around 1,500, who were in prison for federal level of marijuana charges. Again, she is the attorney general at this point, so she was not necessarily hands-on for all of these sentencing and or prosecution. 1. 2, as a DA, she had around 1,400 to 1,500 arrests, but with around 45 imprisoned. So significantly less than what was originally insinuated. She also has recently come out in support of legalizing marijuana on a federal level. So there's a lot of conversation about her record and her being a cop, which has been a whole thing from both left and right, both liberal and conservative sides. And I'm not going to lie, like that's definitely concerning when you see like prosecution side and you do associate that with too much criminalization. And we know who was being criminalized, especially when it comes to drugs. But the numbers are not as high as people want to believe. And she did help establish a program while she was the district attorney to first offenders or like misdemeanor offenders for marijuana. But again, it's not completely wrong. That's a reminder. Another bit of disinformation is that she slept her way to the top, which we know when it comes for women all around. Sexualizing women or deeming them as being sexual in any way is a negative, and so therefore you can make that a big thing. Am I right? Am I right? So not surprising here that this would come out, and this is a go-to tactic for any woman who might be successful, for any woman, period, whether you are a victim, whether any of these things. This is the thing. Yes, Vice President Harris had a relationship with Willie Brown, who was eventually elected mayor, but not while he was mayor. Other than that, I'm not really sure why this would be advantageous. It was said that she was appointed to several committees, but it may also be, hey, because she is a good lawyer, which I feel like is pretty proven. However, people still want to use that as she definitely slept with him to get to others. And then they were trying to say that he was still married, which was not the case. I think he had been separated for several years before they have actually met, like way before. And then they broke up, which is so f***ing dumb that I have to repeat this, but I'm going to tell you the facts. They broke up before he was actually elected mayor. So those are things to consider. Add to that, there was this narrative that she blew her way to the top as an escort. No. That's just completely untrue. Unfortunately, it was weird that Megyn Kelly, who is a big spokesperson for Fox and for the conservative news media, kept saying these things as well, that she slept her way to the top, blah, 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 because she was also the first one to be dismissive of the fact that former President Trump had not only had many affairs, had many children and several different marriages, actually slept with a prostitute while married. None of this was a problem. He's an adult, she said. No one seems to be talking about the fact that he was seen on the list that has been released on Epstein's list, and his name was on it with actual victims and ages, which I find interesting. But somehow, President Harris has blew her way through the top, which still is a weird way to say it. Another part is that she is childless. Yes, she is, actually. She has no children. I don't know why. We don't know why. It could be medically. It could be choice. We don't know. We don't care on my end. She did not birth any children. But according to the ex-wife of Vice President Harris's current husband, she's a wonderful step-parent that has done well with co-parenting. The fact that the ex-wife of your current husband is speaking up for you, I think says a lot. Says a lot about her character. Again, this is not necessarily like she's amazing or whatever. I'm not saying that. But that's, why are we attacking women without children? A. Why are we attacking women with cats? B. I'm not a cat person, but...
You should see my friend has a great shirt that she's about this whole childless cat lady thing that she's going to wear to a lunch with her conservative parents. And I'm like, You are a braver soul than I am.
I love it. I love it. She has to report back. I need to know what happened. Another bit of disinformation. She isn't black.
Yeah.
She turned black, according to Trump, not too long ago. Which I was like, hey, wait, what? Yeah, so her heritage is Jamaican and Indian. And there seems to be a lot of confusion from the Republican crowd as to how she could be both.
Yeah, they're like, impossible!
Impossible! You can't be more than one race. Excuse me, white person. Do you know how many ethnicities probably run through your blood, sir? Your background? Anyway, y'all sure do want to claim Native American for someone who don't understand this whole multiracial thing. But what? I know this is also the deeper conversation that we're not going to get into as non-black people about Jamaican people in general, and then like countries and ethnicities and regions. We're not doing that. But yes, she is and has always considered herself black. Like, yeah.
Well, it's interesting when she first became nominated as a VP, they were like, oh, it's a black woman. And now they're like, no, she's not a black woman, unless it serves their narrative better to be like, yeah, she's
a black woman. She's not Indian. Oh, she's an Indian woman. She's not black.
Yeah.
Wait, why?
Yep.
Anyway. And this newer stuff, of course, she has partied with both Diddy and Epstein. Yes, this would be the conspiracies along the QAnon route, obviously. Here's a quote from the Rolling Stone magazine. It says, one user on X, formerly Twitter, with nearly 500,000 followers, posted a red carpet video and claimed that Harris had attended, quote, Diddy parties in Los Angeles, referring to the rapper and entrepreneur as the music industry's Jeffrey Epstein. Combs, however, does not appear in any of the footage, nor did he organize the event in question, which was the 8th annual race to erase multiple sclerosis. Williams was diagnosed with MS in 1999, the person she had dated, I believe. QAnon promoter Dom Lucre once banned from Twitter for sharing graphic child sexual abuse material, only to have his account quickly reinstated by site owner Elon Musk push the same false Diddy claim based on the non-incriminating video, with a post racking up more than 150,000 likes. So again, these things are going to happen. And speaking of that, there was also recent posts where they actually tried to Photoshop her next to Epstein. And it was not her. And people were able to debunk that really, really quickly. They're like, what are you doing? But that has been going around. And that is something that we need to look at and talk about. But no one seems to care about the Donald Trump hanging out with both Maxwell and Epstein, which is proven. Repeatedly proven. He's talked about that. But yeah, no one really cares. But okay, moving on. And then the classic Obama, anti-Obama tactic, birther conspiracy, has now come about. She wasn't born here. From the same Rolling Stone magazine article, it says, most insidiously, some conservatives are mounting an argument that recalls Trump's birther attacks on Barack Obama as they seek to bar Harris from running for president at all. Kamala Harris is not eligible to run for president, a 2020 election denier tweeted on Sunday in a post that has garnered 34,000 likes. Neither of her parents were naturally born American citizens when she was born. And as fact checkers have been pointing out, ever since the falsehood gained traction when Biden selected Harris as his running mate in 2020, Harris was born in Oakland, California. I'm sure, again, there will be so much more that comes out from now until the election day, maybe even after, probably even after. And we all need to be careful about what we hear and what misinformation we may or may not be reading or tweeting or repeating. And I think a lot of us, again, know better. But it's sometimes hard to see. It's sometimes hard to recognize it. Again, with all the AI that's happening, there's going to be so much more that comes about. And oddly enough, I feel like I need to, because as we're slowly wrapping up, there's a weird side where Fox News is also talking about misinformation. And he says if there was one thing we learned from the Biden administration, is that the best way to fight misinformation is with musical numbers.
Excellent. I will gather, I will write us musical number post haste.
The writer wrote this song for Fox. Literally, the title is How to Fight Democrats' Devious Kamala Harris Disinformation. Start with a song in your heart. This one says he's going to tackle just in how in just 2.5 days, Kamala Harris, quote, earned the nomination through a vigorous grassroots and bottoms-up effort. He said he decided to go with the 1924 classic Casablanca. It had to be you. Number. It had to be you. So I'm not going to sing it. But I'm going to read you what he wrote. It had to be Kamala. It had to be Kamala. The voters be damned, the bosses demand, the poor suckers follow ya, for nobody else Barack will obey. So it's Harris all the way. It had to be Kamala, cackling Kamala. It had to be her.
Cackling Kamala. Okay. Listen, Samantha, you know a lot about musicals. I think we can combat this. I think we can get out in front of this.
Oh, here's another one. There's only 3, but I have to do this one too. And because if you've seen South Pacific, this number is very, very popular. I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair. And you can tell me what you think this is about. He wrote, I'm going to wash that woke right out of my hair. I'm going to wash that woke right out of my hair. GovTrack will erase it. The media will replace it and push new Kamala through the door. So there's this whole, I guess, the fact that they are trying to say that Harris is not the most liberal.
They're really employing a lot of interesting strategies, I have to say.
I know. I'm like, wait.
Don't you like that?
Like,
and then they're like...
I mean, she's not the most liberal. Why are you thinking that? Like, that's why the leftists are really, 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 really unhappy. Like, they're settling. A lot of them are. Like, we're trying to make sure that the country is stable enough to make bigger changes. Mm-hmm. But hey, You do you. So some of these things I'm kind of, because I don't know if that's helping the less conservative conservatives, and they're saying this is disinformation. She's really liberal. And compared to the really extreme conservative, yes. And compared to the really extreme leftist, no.
Right.
And with that, as we mentioned before, the actual statistics of the amount of vitriol that VP Harris has gotten since the endorsement of her being the new nominee for the Democratic Party, we don't really know. But what is known is that the vast amount and the speed of the social media realm allows for and produces a lot of disinformation and information, and it's going to keep expanding exponentially, as well as the fact that she's both a woman and a person of color, especially a Black woman, which we know we've seen evidence that this is going to be even worse for her. And it's going to be more disgusting. As the New York Times article writes, the false claims about Ms. Harris are in many ways echoes of those faced by her predecessors, but warped and amplified by the internet's current structure and delivered with a double-barrel dose of toxicity because of Ms. Harris's race and gender. In the past week, the vice president has been targeted online with unfounded questions about her Blackness and her eligibility to be president. Two racist attacks that also follow Mr. Obama. Those falsehoods were embraced on fringe right-wing platforms like Truth Social and Rumble, which in recent years have become highly influential pipelines to mainstream forums with minimal moderation and oversight. And that's the other part that I want to talk about. Truth Social and Rumble, which has become bigger and bigger. We know Truth Social is supposedly bankrupt at this point, but they're still going. With things like that, with the fact that Elon Musk is a heavy supporter of Trump, talking about he was going to give him money, but then backed out. Okay. Recently, the fact that he is all this anti-quote unquote woke, we know that it's going to get worse. And this is probably the worst we're going to see in history as of today. Of course, it will only continue to be worse. But we also know that with that level of hate, there's also people who will rise up and have risen up to bring truth. So that's the good news. But again, we have to be really, really careful about what we're hearing, what we're seeing, and just hold tight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also add, I've mentioned this before, but sometimes I have friends who are like in my similar wavelength. We generally agree on things. And they'll say like, I saw this headline. And I'm like, okay, explain. And then you didn't read anything else. So that's fine. I do that too.
Yeah.
But like be wary of like spreading that as if it is fact. Like look into the complexities, look into it. Like even organizations like AP have recently had to retract things,
right.
One very infamously. But like just be wary of what you're spreading to people, especially if you haven't necessarily dug into it super deep.
Right.
Because yeah, we can all of us, even if you're aware of this, even if you know about AI, and even if you know about all of these things, you can still read something and think that feels right to me, that sounds right to me. I'm going to tell someone else that. Might not be true.
Right.
Or it might not be the full story.
Oh, exactly. And just like you're saying, that article that I just read from Fox News makes it sound like there's actual, like, it is kind of obviously jokey, but at the same time, like, there must be actual misinformation. Let's see what they're talking about. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, and there's nothing there except we're trying to say she's woke. Okay, you already said that. That doesn't seem like that's going to go too far. And that she miraculously got this bid because of the people she bought out. Like, we've heard this. And so obviously it's not actual helpful information. It's just more narrative to try to feed in the disinformation.
Yes. So, everyone, be vigilant, us included, in this election cycle, because I think it is going to be a little bit different than anything we've ever seen before. Heavy sigh indeed. Well, listeners, if you have any thoughts about this or any resources, oh my gosh, you can let us know. You can email us at stephanieandmomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks, as always, to our super producer, Christine, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.